Hey everybody, it's Cassie Draper. I'm a Sure Park-based realtor and I love working with home buyers. Whether it's your first home, second home, or downsizing, I love to help you kind of anywhere in between. Although I have only been working with home buyers since about 2010, this has been a lifelong accomplishment, if you will. I have always wanted to be a realtor, even when I was a small child. My family and I always lived in rentals. I had a single mother who, did everything she could to keep the lights on and food on the table, but all I really wanted was to own a home. So basically, when it comes to why I do what I do, I've always loved looking at homes. We went from rental home to rental home where we were never allowed to paint the walls. All I ever wanted was a red bedroom. Looking back now, probably not exactly a style choice I would choose now, but it was my big audacious dream that I had back then. I would look through the newspaper every single weekend and circle all the different rental properties that were available just to convince my mom that we should go look at some. She never said yes, but regardless, I still, gave her the information every week and said, oh, look, this one's very affordable. We should go look here. This one's really close to school. We should go here. And it just never really came together for us. But I think that having that longing to want to, move into something bigger is probably why I find so much satisfaction in helping people make their kind of dreams come true, if you will. I guess it's a saintly thing to do. When we work together, I want to make it as easy for you as possible. It is so easy for people to get caught up in how things are typically done, using words that are industry standard. But for the average person, they only buy a home 1 or 2 times a year. So what I really want to do is dial that back for you and translate things like RPR. What is a real property report? Why is that important to you? Maybe, title insurance is something, but here we are talking lingo and jargon again. So what I really want to do is make it easy for my home buyers to be confident that they're making an informed decision because I've dialed it back and made it a very easy situation for them to navigate through. Another great thing about my experience in the home building industry is it has really helped me learn to ask important questions. So I'm not saying what is it you love to have for breakfast, but I want to know when you're making breakfast, what does that look like? Do you have 3 kids at the bar stools? Is your husband dancing around you because the kitchen's tight? Are you doing big meal preps? What does that morning in your house look like? And what do you want it to look like? Because sometimes those little moments in the day, whether it's brushing your teeth in a crowded bathroom, the kitchen, the dining room table, those are all where all your core memories are being made. So let's see what you're doing and see how we can improve it and find a home that might solve some of those issues and really help you elevate your living situation. People are coming to me and asking, Cassie, what is going on in the real estate market? Why is everybody so keen to buy or sell right now? And honestly, the answer is a little bit unclear, but what I can tell you is people are living in their homes differently than they ever did before. When I was selling new construction homes, people would come in and their major focus was on big, beautiful homes. And you would find often they would, maybe make some concessions when it came to picking the lot because they don't use their backyard. They don't spend a lot of time outside. It's just another thing for them to mow. Now, the last 2 summers, I don't know about you, but I've found that connecting with family outdoors has been kind of our only option. I've never spent so much time around a fire pit. I've never spent so much time sitting in a driveway. And although it's not an ideal situation, you're making the most of it. People are also living in their homes like they never have before. So this beautiful open concept floor plan that everyone was longing for so long is now echoey when 2 people are on a Zoom call. When some people are working different shifts, some people are working from home, kids are working from, doing school from home, it can be a very noisy, chaotic place. So they're thinking, you know what, maybe we do need an extra bedroom. Maybe we do need another office. Maybe having a finished basement is more important than it was before. They're just living in their homes completely different than their original pre-C word life that they ever did before. So it's been really interesting to see how everybody is looking to not only shift their current living situation, but also improve it. When it comes to house hunting, I love to share my tips and tricks and insight on what a property may look like. So if we're walking into a home that, might be a little battered and bruised or quirky, if you will, I find that I always have pretty innovative solutions. I also have a pretty good understanding of what it's going to cost. Now, I am no professional, and I will always refer you to somebody whose lane that is, but I am more than happy to sit there and brainstorm ideas. Get the tape measure out. Let's figure it out. I've templated many of floors with painter's tape because I think that a lot of people's biggest hurdle when buying a house is they do not have the ability to envision what could be. So just because we're walking into a home that was built in the late 80s or 90s, there could be some really cool quirks to that house, but there's also some weird walls, and you want to expand a kitchen, or maybe turn an office or a bedroom into an office. There's always different ways that you can utilize a space outside of what you're seeing when you walk into that home initially, and I love to brainstorm that kind of stuff. 2010, I went to real estate school for the first time, and I thought to myself, when I was envisioning what my career was going to look like, that I would be showing resale home after resale home after resale home. Then I had a teacher who told me, you gotta specialize in something. So, one person cannot be the master of all things. So they said, if you're gonna specialize in condos, do that. If you're gonna specialize in riverbend, harness it, do it. For me, I found that new construction was always going to be my bread and butter because I love new, pretty, bougie things. So I went and I found a home builder. And they told me, Kassy, we love that you have this kind of education behind you, but it's a conflict of interest. So you have to park your license, which is fine. I had a great career working in new construction. And one thing that really, really came obvious to me was why working with a realtor during the new construction process is so important. Clients would come into my show home and they would have paper after paper after paper from every single builder that they walked into. And then you would be talking to them, you'd say, what was it you liked about this home that you went into? Which house was that? Oh, right, yes. And all of a sudden they've seen so many homes that were equally beautiful and fabulous and all of the things, but when it came down to the meat and potatoes and what was included in those homes, the different levels of specifications, the quirks of each different builder, it was very, very hard for them to compare the apples to the oranges. Heck, there's watermelons getting in there and you have no idea what you're getting into. As a realtor, I want to be able to not only introduce you to a reputable builder that I've worked with successfully for multiple times, like multiple transactions, but I also want to help steer you away from some that might have had a less ideal alternative. I can really translate a lot of those building specs for you, make recommendations about things that you might want to consider. For instance, does this house require a retaining wall? That's going to cost you X amount of dollars when the lot next door actually looks a little bit flatter. So, it's just some things that people aren't thinking about early into the process that might be a big deal breaker from one builder to the other. So if you're thinking about buying a new home or building a new home or tearing down an existing home to build a new home, I want to introduce you to a home builder that's going to, be able to meet some of those needs for you, meet some of the different requirements that you're looking for on a home, and find one that I think is going to work well with you. That way, you know that I'm introducing you to somebody that has your best interest. I'm here to fight for you. I'm here to fight with you. Hopefully we don't have to fight at all, but at the end of the day, I'm always going to be your number one. And the builder's representative is not necessarily looking out for your best interest. They're looking out for the home builder. So unfortunately, sometimes having somebody that is not emotionally invested into the process, that is, done it a few times, that has maybe some outside insight to why things would be done a certain way can be very beneficial when buying a new construction home. When buying or selling real estate, sometimes it's not necessarily under the best of circumstances. I love to say that this is such an exciting time, but when you really get down to it, sometimes it's the loss of a family member that is the reason you want to move. It could be, the economic situation. Maybe your dream home that you worked and saved for is just maybe a little bit of a stretch right now, and you're looking to simplify your life a little bit. I just had an instance here before Christmas where I got to work with a widow. And oh my gosh, was she the sweetest lady in the whole world. She made me work. It was looking at homes and it was exciting. But then she would get home and have so much doubt and question. Every question that came was always from a place of fear. So when I got down to it and I talked to her, I said, what is going on? Why is this coming up? Why have we not talked about this before? A lot of it came down to the self-doubt. Her husband had dealt with all of these matters before. She had never had to, look at eaves troughs. She's never had to make giant purchases and big decisions like this on her own. So as exciting as a time it was for her, it was also so much weighing on her internally. And I'm so grateful that she chose me to help her do that, because I think that I have a lot of empathy. I have a lot of understanding as to how hard some things can be. And I really want to work with you to get through some of those, answer any questions that you might have, and just as much as I try to make it a great process, just know that I understand that it can be a hard one. So get this, when I was 18 or 19 years old, I was a nanny, but not just like a run-of-the-mill nanny here in Sherwood Park, Beverly Hills nanny. It was so cool. I got to see some of the most beautiful real estate. It's probably where, I got the taste of the big fancy homes, and for that I'm grateful. But there was one takeaway that specifically sticks out in my mind, and I'd like to take it with me moving forward in my career. So we were in Montreal. We flew to Montreal on a private jet. So that was nice. But we flew to Montreal, and my boss, who is obviously a very wealthy man, very thick French accent, we go in and we're looking to buy a condo building. And I'm just sitting here in awe, like, how can we just roll into town and spend X amounts of millions of dollars to buy a condo building? But he had put some calls out there to, the best realtors in town, the big shots, the big wigs, and, anybody you would assume that you want to make this purchase from. Nobody got back to him. And we pulled out what is now a relic called the Yellow Pages. And we opened it up into the real estate, and we looked down, and we found this man who had this big smile, and he looked like anybody's grandma or grandpa. I guess not grandma, but he looked, very, very relatable. And we called him, and he answered the phone. Nobody who we thought would be the go-to agents was even calling us back. And this guy answers the phone on the second ring. He goes, he shows us the building. We obviously get into negotiations. And that guy made a big commission check just for answering the phone. So what I always try to remind myself is you never know people's stories. You never know the background of why, or if their capacity to buy is maybe as strong as someone else's. But unless you take the time to understand somebody and what their situation is, you can't really help them. I always want to make sure that I'm coming from a place of curiosity, I'm coming from a place of empathy, and just generally giving everybody a shot, because I think when you get so busy, it's so easy to lose sight and just stop picking up the phone because you're so busy. So I promise I'll always answer my phone, and that is why. Okay, so you've decided that you're going to buy a house, and that's very exciting. So you're probably wondering, what is next? Well, the first thing that we always want to do is we want to talk to a mortgage specialist about having you pre-approved. Once they give you that number, you want to kind of dial it back and re-reflect on your budget. The bank will often approve you for X amount of money, but what they don't know is that you love to go on vacation once a year. You love your Starbucks. We do a lot more skip the dishes than sometimes we should, But if that's important to you and you want to continue with that lifestyle, you need to make sure that you're allocating the budget to it. You've heard the term house poor, and there's a reason for it. People will often overspend because they're emotionally involved in a situation. So I always want you to look back at what you can afford, but then what you're willing to afford. Sometimes that number just doesn't make sense. So let's look at that monthly payment and make sure that when we're looking for homes, you have a true understanding of what spending that much money will do to your day-to-day living. Well, thank you so much for following along. If you've watched this whole video, thank you so much. I'm Kassy Draper, and I can't wait to help you find a home.